And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Alexa Page. Alexa had a near-death experience where she encountered her son, and today we're going to learn about it. Alexa, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. The pleasure is all mine, and I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you so much. All right, well, I guess it's best to just start with your NDE. So tell us what happened.
Okay, well, I'm going to make a long story semi-short by saying that my NDE was a result of intoxication and I guess you could say an overdose. I had been in Puerto Rico for about a year. And prior to that, I'm originally from Washington State. So let me put that out there. I'm from Washington State. And, that's where marijuana is legal. And on top of that, I also had a card because I was diagnosed for rheumatoid arthritis. Well, I was diagnosed on the point. And, I just didn't want to get on a lot of medication. I had already been on some antidepressants. I didn't want to mix things up. So I decided to go the natural route. I went to a dispensary, and I went to the same dispensary that I always went to before I went to Puerto Rico, but I got the same dosage. I didn't take into account my tolerance. So I had been on the island for almost a year, doing nothing, taking, nothing. I wanted to go through this whole natural thing. And I did. And I had fun. And I got a lot of emotional junk out that I wanted to kind of get out. But when I went back to Washington, it's like this cloud came right back over me. So anyways, I went to the dispensary and I got my exact same order. Like it was I'm already in the system. So I got the exact same order. And when I came home, I ate the same amount, which was half of one Rice Krispie, half of a Rice Krispie. I had a glass of wine. And I did start taking my antidepressant again. So the only thing I can think of was the mix just did something. It was not a good mix. And so the mix kind of made me really heavy headed. I started feeling heavier and heavier, like I needed to take a nap. But I didn't want to take a nap because it was in the middle of the daytime. So what I did, like an idiot, I took more of the edible. Because I figured maybe it's not, kicking in because it's been so long. If you know anything about memes, there's like a whole slew of memes out there talking about this edible isn't nothing, this edible is not work, and then later it has some kind of picture of them flying and stuff. That's what happened to me, literally. So I felt like the edible didn't do anything. And so I took more. About 15, 20 minutes later, I started walking around, the house, just feeling my heartbeat a little bit faster and faster. And finally I said, okay, this is kicking in. So I sat down on the couch downstairs and I told myself, if this gets bad, I need to tell somebody because this never felt this intense. It got bad. And my sister was doing something at the time. I wanted to tell her, but I just left it to myself. So basically, when my heart got really, really rapid, I said, I'm just going to take a nap. And I just laid down on the pillow. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I can feel myself trying to fight to stay in my body, if that makes sense. And I don't know how to explain it, but I just knew I was fighting to stay in my body. Even though I just wanted to take a nap, I can feel myself fighting to stay in my body. And as soon as I relaxed, I was out, just like that. I was out. And as soon as I relaxed, I just remember being in this suspension. And I said, oh gosh, I've really done it now. I've always been a spiritual person. I've had many OBEs before this that I had just finally accepted as OBEs. I didn't know what they were before, but I had a lot of OBEs and just different supernatural experiences ever since I was little. So, I'm not afraid of spiritual realm things. My fear was, am I actually dead? And the reason why that was my fear is because I had my son. So, my son was 5 or 6 at the time. No, he had to be 5. He was only 5 at the time. And I was so worried that that's how I would go. And the worry kind of consumed me because in this suspension, I kept thinking to myself, oh my gosh, Yaima, that's what I call my son. Yaima, who's going to take care of Yaima? Of course, I have a whole family who would have taken care of him. But as a mother, I didn't want anybody else taking care of my son. I didn't want anyone else to have to raise him. Or I just didn't want to leave him motherless. So that worry just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And it was just really weird because that was just in the back of my head. So the whole time this is going on, I'm thinking to myself, well, if I'm dead, where am I? So that's when my awareness kind of opened up. And I was in this void. I was like in a black void. It wasn't a scary, like black void. Like you think black void, you think something scary, but it wasn't. It was very comfortable, actually. It was like a warm velvet existence. And I was not knowledgeable if I had a body or not at that point. I didn't know if I had a body or not. I was just seeing where I was at. So finally, when I started to really focus, I saw everlasting Earths. They were all Earth. It wasn't different like planets. It was Earth, 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 as far as you can see. Nothing but Earths. And I'm just thinking to myself, what is this? And I study a lot, about spiritual things and physics and theories. So I'm thinking maybe I made this up, like multi-dimensions or something. And I'm thinking like maybe my mind is doing this. But as soon as I looked at one of the Earths that I knew it wasn't my Earth, a different one, I felt myself sucking into it. And at that point, I just kind of pulled back because I'm like, oh no. I knew instinctively that if I had focused a long time on any one of those Earths, it would have sucked me into it. And I don't ask me how I know it. I just know it. I know if I would have focused too hard, I would have been gone. Now, when I came back in this world, I don't know that, but I knew not to focus too hard. So I pulled back. But I had knowledge of every single one of those Earths at the same time. I had knowledge of every one of those Earths. So I don't know if they were like what you would consider past lives, alternative lives, just different. I know that I was on every one of them in some capacity. So if I would have sucked in, I would have been focused on that one. Or if I would have went on that one, and they were everlasting. It was like, so I couldn't see the end from either way. And that just tripped me up. So once I realized what I was looking at, it's like my mind went into overload, like it was going to like trip the system or something. So I started repeating, like, I don't know if I said it audibly or just inside, but I mean, it was over and over. I said the same phrase, a human mind can't conceive this. A human mind can't conceive this. And I don't even say like a human mind, like that's not my vocabulary. So I don't even know why I would say that sentence, but I kept saying it. A human mind can't conceive this. A human mind can't conceive. And I said it over and over and over and over and over again to where it was like, I felt like I was about to shatter because I had all this information from all these different worlds, well, they were all Earths, but they were different. And so finally, I just said to myself, like, okay, like I'm dead. That's why I just decided like I have to be dead. And then at that point, it's like a sorrow came over me because I'm thinking like, oh, my poor Yaima, my poor baby, he's going to have to be motherless. And the sadness came over me. But at the same time, I felt like I was calling him to myself, like the worry called him to myself. So at that point, I can't tell you if the other Earths were still there or not, but they were just out of focus if they were. The next thing I know, I'm still in this black void and boom, my son is standing right in front of me or floating. I don't know. I mean, we weren't standing on anything, but he was like right in front of me. And I knew instinctively it was him, but he was an adult. It tells me like, okay, something's really up this place because he was a full adult. He was like 6'2", 6'3". At the time, he was only 5 years old. And I knew it was him. Like, there was no question about it. And I'm like worried about this little boy. And then this grown man shows up. So I'm just like, staring, just quiet for like it seemed like a whole 2 minutes. It was nothing but silence because I'm just like staring at him. And I said, Yaima? And it's like he looked back at me like, Mom? And I said his name again, Yaima. And he's like, Mom? So we're going back and forth. But the weird thing is, it's like you have a knowing over there. I know for a fact that the reason why he was saying Mom, it wasn't like, Mom, what are you doing here? It was like, why are you looking at me through these mom lenses? That's what I felt. I felt like he was asking, like, why are you calling me mom over here? And it was the weirdest feeling because, I mean, on one hand, I'm worried about him. On the other hand, like, I feel cut off from him because not only is he an adult, he's like a being that's above us. I don't know if you can call it an oversoul. I don't know what you can call it, but he was more advanced than both of us are right now. So I don't know how he was able to realize that, like, I'm looking at him through mom lenses. So, you know, I'm using mom vision, and he's just like, why are you, you know? And then I said, like, what are you doing here? And his reply was the same. What are you doing here? And it was just the weirdest exchange. But I mean, there was love there, but it was a soul Twilight Zone-ish. I just said, like, oh my gosh, like I'm looking at an adult version of my son who's, I don't want to say he's looking down on me, but it was very clear his existence and the way he perceived things was above mine in that space. And so he was looking at me kind of like, why are you like calling me, you know, like Yaima? Like he was so much more than that. That's what I mean. So I don't know if it was like all his past lives put into one, or, you know, alternative lives, whatever it was, he was a bigger being than he could ever become here. So that's the best way I can coin it. He was a bigger being than he could ever even become here. Even if he lived to be 500 years, he was still more knowledgeable, like, you know, the wisdom, the light. He was just a different being, but it was still him. So finally, it's like I kind of cowered down. I don't know how to explain it. Like I cowered down, like, this is Yaima, but this, you know, this Yaima is okay, basically. It was just like, I'm fine. And then he said that. That's the last thing he said. Look it, I'm fine. And he had his hands out and he's just like, I'm fine, Mom. It's like, what are you worried about? And I'm just like, oh, okay. And, like thinking to myself, like, how is this happening? But, you know, I have one foot on the earth still thinking about that life. And then I have this other foot in eternity. And it's like I'm toggling back and forth mentally, which is impossible to do. And finally, I'm just like, okay. And it's like once I just kind of recited that out loud, like, okay, like you're okay. And as soon as I said that, it's like I kind of started to relax back into the whole, you know, multiverse thing. And it seemed like he was busy, to be honest. Almost like I don't have time for this. Like he went back somewhere after we, you know, had our exchange. He was just like, I'm fine. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, okay, bye. So he like left. And it was just so weird because I felt like a kindergartner bothering, you know, a professor. And that feeling just never shook. Like I'll never forget that feeling I had when he's 5 at the time, you know, on Earth. So anyways, long story short, I just said, you're okay, you're fine. And at that point is when I started kind of retracting back to, you know, this common existence. So I don't remember seeing all the Earths again. I just remember putting my focus back towards this one existence. And as I was traveling, it didn't seem like, you know, minutes. It was like milliseconds, but of course there's no time really. And I had experienced timelessness plenty of times before. Like I said, I've had other OBEs. And so, you know, I knew that feeling already. So when I came back into my body, it felt like a sack of potatoes, like on my head and just like lifting up. It was like heavy. And finally, I was able to walk around, but I still felt heavy. I still had one foot in, one foot out. And I didn't know if this was going to be a continuous thing. So I'm like, the best thing to do is to go upstairs, tell my sister that, I need to go to the hospital. Because I know that, I've heard you can't really overdose on marijuana, but who knows what it can do if it's mixed with other things. So just to be on the safe side, and because I felt like I was still right on the borderline, I didn't feel like I ran across. I felt like I took one tiptoe over, and it can go either way. So I didn't want to chance it. I told my sister I need to go to the hospital, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, are you serious?" So she took me to the hospital, and the doctors kind of chuckled like, "Oh, it's one of them, got too much in their system," not knowing that, like, I was just happy to be able to even talk to them, because like I was in that other place for, it seemed like forever. So when they were giving me liquids, like, it wasn't a lot they did. They were like, this is something you have to just wait out. Give me water, give me liquid. It was like they're just gonna monitor my heart and just, have me sit in the room. And that's what they did for the most part. My sister was there, like after an hour and a half, she was already making jokes. Like, I come from a family like that. We joke about everything. So an hour and a half, she was already making jokes. And like, I was talking to her normally, but still kind of like in the Twilight Zone. And then finally I told her, I said, I saw the multiverse. I don't even know why I said that name, but that's what I used. And she said, what? I said, I saw the multiverse. And she's like, what are you talking about? And she's looking at me like, okay, you're high. And I'm like, no, I saw the multiverse and I saw adult Yaima. And she's like, what? Adult Yaima? I said, yeah, I saw adult Yaima. And she's like, okay, sit back down, but time went by and I had the same story. And so finally she was listening to me like, what are you talking about when you keep saying that? And I explained it to her the best way I could. And so she's like, so you mean you saw him as an adult? Like he was just a spirit? I said, yeah, he was a spirit. And he was telling me he was okay. And like, it was funny, but it was still trippy. So she's like, well, if you could just do all that, how come you didn't get the lotto numbers? Or how come you didn't do this or that? And I'm like, that was the farthest thing from my mind. The only thing I was worried about is my son's well-being. And I honestly think I brought him to me because of the strong emotion. I think wherever he was at or what, I don't know. I pulled him to me because of that. And I mean, he was a little irritated. It seemed like not in like a mean way, but just kind of like, what are you doing? Like basically you're doing something wrong on that realm. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to even do this. So it was a question like, how are you here right now? And that hasn't been the first time I've had an experience like you're doing something you're not supposed to do, on the spiritual realm. That's probably like the third time I've been in a situation where I guess you could say I'm breaking some kind of rule or something. And then I've had a couple times after that. So that emotion was the same. It was the same. Whatever realm I was in, I was not supposed to be there with this ego on, with the ego of Alexa Page or with the lenses of mom. And that was very clear to me. And I can't tell you if it was like set up, to scare me or not, or just to what, but I can tell you one thing, my son was definitely like looking down, not down. I hate to say down, not down, but looking at me like, you're not supposed to, be here like this. And that's kind of how it was. Like, what are you doing? But it was his whole self. And it was just this part of me, like this life. I feel like his being was his whole entire being. This being was just this fragment of, whoever I really am. I guess my oversoul, you would say. So that just, I couldn't even look at my son the same for like a whole 2 weeks. It's like every time I look at him, that image kept flashing and I'm just like, how did you do that? I was wondering, did he know? Could he remember? But he had no clue. And I'm like, did you have a dream? Did you do anything? He had no clue about, and it finally took some time. I told him, I was like, I saw your spirit as an adult. And he's like, what? What did I look like? He was asking little quick kid questions, but he didn't remember anything like that. He didn't have any answers. And I mean, why would he? But I was just trying to put the pieces together for myself. So that was what you can consider the NDE. I definitely remember leaving my body and coming back. I guess you could call it an OBE. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I flatlined. I'm not sure if you would consider that one or not, but I feel like I've had other OBEs and they weren't medically related. And yeah, that's what I consider an OBE.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with us. Since you've had other OBEs, can you say that this experience is completely different from a regular OBE?
Yes, totally.
What makes it different?
It's different because like when I've had my OBEs in the past, like I'm so much more aware of my surroundings. I still know like what if I'm sleeping in the bed, if I'm, fell asleep on the couch, if what I ate for dinner. I was completely cut off from everything in the NDE. And I knew like my mind had expanded also. OBE, you still have your same exact mind. As far as I'm concerned, you have your same exact mind. It's not like like the multiverse thing that I saw. If I was just having an OBE, I wouldn't have been able to understand that. Or I wouldn't have known not to focus on one of those other Earths. I knew that. And so it was like, I feel like the OBEs I had were like just around, around here, like around this geographical type of place, not all the way out into whatever kind of void I was in.
And I guess with this one, you were more spiritually transformed by it.
Oh, yes, definitely.
So maybe you having the edible with the alcohol and then you doubled the dose and then it was just really powerful for your body.
Yes, too powerful. Never again. Mm-hmm. Oh, my goodness.
When you immediately left your body, you went to the black void. Is that correct?
Well, it was a black void, but it didn't have the other earths at first.
Right.
It was like I was just, it was like a softness. Mm-hmm. It was like a liquid velvet. I can't explain it, but I just felt very comfortable. I was very comfortable, very relaxed. I didn't feel any type of fear. I was just really comfortable. And it's like I was just suspended, just floating. And it wasn't until I started thinking about, well, where am I? Then I saw all, the earths from one end to the other.
Yeah, I like how you call it the multiverse because it's almost like maybe in each one of these earths you had a different life, like parallel lives or something.
I think about that every day. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I do. I think about it every day.
Sometimes when I make a choice or I think about a possibility, I think, well, maybe I had this possibility on another earth. You know what I mean? Do you ever think about that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, to be honest, even one step further than that, ever since that experience, I have even stronger, I don't know what you call it, clear awareness. Mm-hmm. I feel like I tune into what those other realms are doing all the time. Sometimes in lucid dreams, sometimes like I'll just know something is happening. And it's weird because it's like, and I'm a spiritual person too. So I pray about things and I'm open-minded. So I feel like, the creator's only going to give you what you're ready for. And because I'm open-minded enough to accept some of these concepts, I have received downloads to explain them. What I call a download is when it just gets downloaded like in a picture type of thing. I feel like there's all these multiverses, like if you can consider them bubbles, and you can consider like you're in one bubble, but you know how bubbles can connect to each other. Mm-hmm. But one bubble can only have so many bubbles connected to it. Maybe 8 or 9 that would fill the surface. So I frequently like get a peek into these same 7 or 8 other existences that I know are not mine at this point, but ever since I was little, like I would have this, like I can literally write the street number, house, like that's how well I know these other places. But there's no possible way that it could be this life. Only thing I can say is that it's a parallel life that's just close to mine. The other ones, they're probably further and further out to where, I would never get to see it. But there's a good amount of them that I know exactly, where I'm at, where I'm, living, what's going on in that life. Sometimes I'll feel like another Alexa died. Like, it's just really weird. Like, I'll feel like another Alexa just died. And I'm just like, oh, she just died. I'm just like, and it's just like going on with my regular life. And then even other people. It can be someone I met out on a train for like 10 minutes and had just a little conversation with. And they're at the randomest time, like I could just be biting into a ham sandwich and I'd be like, oh, that person just died. And I'm like, how the heck would I, but it's just a weird, like I've never thought of that person ever since that one conversation. But it'll be the strongest feeling, like that person just died. I don't know how, but.
Do you mostly see into these other realms or other parallel universes during your dreams?
Mostly, yeah. Dream state, or what I would call lucid dreaming. When I'm 100% lucid, it's like I get into this mode where I get in like travel mode. And I'm like, oh, let me go check on this. Let me go see. It's like I'm a whole nother person. I mean, it's still me, but it's like I know where I'm going. I know I have like a little pass to go here and there. A couple times I've seen my past relatives in these states. And I know it's not a parallel life. Like I'm in some kind of other heavenly realm. A couple of times I saw my grandma. And like, I know that my body was sleeping. I know that she was here. I was there. And as a matter of fact, I even told two of the people that I was walking with, when I saw my grandma, this is what stuck out to me the most. I told two of the people that I was walking with, I say, oh, look, there's my grandma. I said, she died on my earth life. Let me go say hi. And I went and said hi to her. And when I woke up, I said, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. Because I'm walking with these two people that I can't remember now, but I knew very well. And I saw my grandma kind of from the side. And it's like we were in like this cafeteria thing. And she was like standing far off on the side. And I immediately recognized her. And I was just like, because I hadn't seen her for years. And I told my two friends I was walking with, I'm just like, wait right here. I said, no, I'll catch back up with you. I got to go say hi to my grandma. She already passed on my earth life, so I want to go say hi. And the fact that I just said that so nonchalantly, it blew my mind when I woke up. So I went to her and I just was talking to her and I'm just like, I missed you. And the weird thing is she never said like, I missed you too. It was just like, I know. And for me, when I woke up, to me, that was more confirmation because there's no time over there. It's like they can't miss you, even though you want them to. You want to think that they're missing you, but they really don't because there's no time. And so, but I just gave her the biggest hug, and I just remember just so much love pouring out of her. And I just remember her youthful look because she passed of cancer, but she looked so youthful and vibrant, but she still had that motherly wisdom, and I just remember hugging her and feeling all this warmth come just flooding into my spirit, and I woke up.
Do you ever wake up confused about which realm you're in?
Yeah, that's happened a couple of times. That has happened a couple of times, and I've actually prayed. Now, I don't recommend this to everybody because you might get what you pray for. I've actually prayed to God. I'm like, God, if there's all these other realms and all these other places, I want to see them. Like I want to go see them. Like I accept it. I'm not closed-minded. I have an open mind. I can take it. I can handle it basically. Because I feel like God only gives you what you can handle. So, I prayed this for like almost years before it actually happened. And finally, I felt like I had a consistent stream of lucid dreams on like other realms. And they were so interesting because I get specific with my prayers. I get really specific. I'm like, I want to see other worlds. I want to see other people. I want to taste different fruit. I want to see other things. Like I'm very specific. And finally, I had one experience that had all that in there. And I mean, I'm literally like eating different fruit and talking to, I guess what you could consider an elder of this place. I don't know what it was called, but I was 100% lucid. Again, 100% lucid. I knew I was sleeping in my bed. I knew I had a certain amount of time, and I could be there for as long as I could stay asleep. And I distinctively remember this guy who was kind of older. It was like a fruit stand, and there was all these different carts and people, and it was like this big thing about this big, and it was kind of like dirty, hairy or whatever. Not hairy like a coconut, but it just had a weird texture to it. And I never saw it. And so I walked up and I said, like, what is this? And the weirdest thing is he knew who I was, but he didn't address me by my name. He said, well, this is pretty much like the potato on your world. And I said, what? And he's like, yeah, this is where your potato comes from. He's like, we brought these there a long time ago. And I'm like, what? So our little potatoes came from this big thing. I said, wow, so why are ours so small? And he's just like, well, a lot of reasons. And it's just weird because I'm just walking around talking to people. Then I went to another part, and it's like the people there were higher. So they knew that I was kind of like a kindergartner coming just to look around. Like they knew who I was, or they either knew that I was just from a lower world. So I was able to just ask questions and walk around. It was fun. And, I wasn't too surprised because it's exactly what I prayed for. So, I'm like, I really want to see these other realms. Like, I'm bored with life. It's no question I struggled with depression. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been taking antidepressants. So sometimes like those experiences, it just boosts me up to be a little bit more, happy during the day, or just looking forward to what's to come. Because Earth is a hard realm to be in, just because of the polarity and the negativity and just the drama, it's a hard place to be. So I want people just to know that those dream realms, they are real. Now I don't know about every single one of them, but I know like when you feel like you're really there and you wake up and you're like, can't believe that was a dream. 9 times out of 10, you were really there. It was not a dream. So that's what I want to do. I want to bring just more awareness to that dream realm and how it can help you in this realm, because it can.
Well, speaking of dreams, do you feel that during your NDE, where you were was more real than here? And maybe this is the dream?
Definitely. Way more real. This is like when I came back, it took me about 2 days to really feel like I was back in my body. I felt like I was just walking with like a potato sack wrapped around each leg and each arm. And I was just like clumping through, because that's how I felt when, I was back in the body. That's how I know I was actually out. Because the only other time that's happened to me is when, I've had like an accident, a car accident, it was just an OBE, but still you feel heavy when you come right back in. And that heaviness doesn't go away immediately. It takes a little bit of time, or, maybe some meditation, which I didn't do back then. Now I meditate, but, back then I just went with the punches. So I just remember that heavy feeling that happens when you come back in your body.
What do you think inspires you about your NDE?
I think that what really put the icing on the cake for me, and as far as inspiration goes, is that you got to trust yourself. You got to trust your spirit. I grew up in a very spiritual, religious household. So I had a lot of experiences when I was younger that either got snuffed out, ignored, or demonized, basically. And growing up with that being a constant, it was confusing. Sometimes it was hurtful because you don't know if, you are something that is wrong with you, or, are you really having these experiences? But that experience kind of let me know, like, you're just a little bit ahead, basically. And it's not to argue with people. It's not to, say I'm right or you're wrong. Because the truth is, it's like nobody's really right or wrong. It's just a level of understanding. And it helped me to trust myself. And I try to explain to people like this, you know, if a kindergartner learns the ABCs, they're only going to be able to recognize the ABCs. Now you can read them a story and say Mary had a little lamb, but they're going to see Mary dash HAD dash A dash on and on. That's what they're going to experience. And neither one of you are wrong. Somebody older is going to immediately look at it and say, Mary had a little lamb. They might picture Mary with the little lamb and know exactly how the story's going to go from hearing it so many times. So it's about learning and accepting your level without comparing it to anyone else's. And coming from a really religious background, I have to respectfully decline, religion, because it doesn't leave any room for personal growth or supernatural experiences, some that nobody can explain. Like I would ask questions and, nobody had an answer to it. It's just like, oh, you just don't ask that. And I'm like, well, no, I ask everything. So you can't answer, just say you can't answer. But, you can't demonize someone from just having more questions. Now, I love God. I still have respect for religion because it's a necessary step for some people. However, I feel like I've seen too much to go back. I've heard too much to go back. I've experienced too much to stuff myself back into that box. I'm already stuffed into a body. I don't need to also be stuffed into a box. So that just opened up my mind. And yeah, I'm transformed forever. I don't mind about speaking about things out loud or talking about experiences. I have a lot of people who were religious that actually come to me, in private, or they're still in religion and will tell me about experiences that, they know they can't actually say in church. Otherwise, they'll be looked at as, well, that was the devil, or you might be possessed, so I think it has its place.
It sounds like to me that what you've observed is that we are all on our own evolutionary level, and some of us are higher and some of us are lower, and there's no right or wrong about that. That's just where we are.
Exactly. And it's okay. I used to want to prove everything to everyone, but now I'm just like, let them be at their level. Let them be at the level, let them enjoy it. They'll just like there are people on higher levels than I can understand. This is an ongoing thing. And I wouldn't want to serve a God that I could understand, if that makes any sense. I wouldn't want to worship or trust in a God that I can understand. Because if I can understand you, why are you the God?
Mm-hmm.
So I like the fact that there's these levels and layers and things that are going to keep unfolding for the rest of my existence, which is eternal. I like that.
Do you think it's possible that the son that you saw wasn't really your son, but maybe some kind of God or something, and he was in the image of your son?
I know for a fact he was my son. I just feel like he was more than my son. So I feel like maybe his oversoul, or maybe a collection of lives. I don't know. It's like he allowed his self to respond to me. That's why he said mom. From the time he said mom, I knew it was a choice. He could have probably been just a light being, but I saw him with the same face as my son, just, as an adult, and same color, same shade, what his build would be at that age. So physically it was an adult version of this son right here, but I know it was a choice because I guess maybe because that's what I was calling for. That's what I was reaching for. If I would have just not thought of him like that, maybe it would have came as a different, I don't know. I just know that he was showing me a measure of grace. Maybe
he understood that you weren't supposed to be there, and he's like, oh, she thinks I'm her mom.
Yeah, that's how I felt. She
thinks I am, but really we're just two spiritual beings out here. Nobody's mom or son.
That's exactly how I felt. And it took me a long time to swallow that pill. Because as a mother, especially this is my only son, I only have one child. So it was a hard pill to swallow. It was, because I'm like, what do you mean? Like, this is not, and I finally had a conversation with him. I said, you know what? You're my son, but you're not really my son. We're all God's children. It was a conversation about something that had to do with, discipline, of course. But I was kind of letting him know that, we write our own stories. And as much as I love you, you got to make your own decisions. And your own decisions are going to affect you, not just for this life, but, possibly the next. Because I'm a strong believer in karma. So, you have to, you got to think about that. I hate to say it, but yeah, you're as powerful as I am. I don't have any, creative power that you don't have. And I try to let him know that you're going to create your own reality, regardless of what I tell you.
How did he respond to that?
At first, it was just kind of like a shock, like, what do you mean you're not my mom? But, the more I explain it to him, the more he's starting to grasp it. Because, like, for instance, right now, I listen to my so-called teachers and gurus and stuff. I listen to Abraham Hicks a lot. I listen to Joyce Meyer. I mean, I listen to a whole array of people that you would be like, well, that's off the, these people are teaching different things, but it's the perfect combination for me. So I take from what I learned and I try to, make him understand that you're going to have to come on with your own path. Like, I'm never going to push religion down his throat. I will be as helpful as I can when it comes to asking questions, but I don't ever want to put him in a situation where he's having like real life experiences and encounters with, God or with the spirit realm, with angelic beings, and then me discounting them, saying, well, I don't see a scripture on it. So it was the devil. Just pray at night. I'm not going to do that to him, because I know I've had some of the craziest, not crazy, I shouldn't use that word, but wildest out of body experiences when I was younger. And I knew they were real. Like I said, they were more real in this realm. But I convinced myself it was either something bad or something that, couldn't have happened, because you can't find a scripture on it. So I took that, and I will never do that to him.
Was it your NDE that helped you make that change to accept your prior OBEs, or had you already accepted that before your NDE?
NDE just kind of tipped over the scale. Like, there was a couple of them that I accepted no matter what. It's like, you can't tell me, you can't tell me this didn't happen. Like, just real quick, when I was floating over the dinner table, it was an OBE. And where my room was, it was, I guess you could say, kitty corner to the dinner table. So, my room's on the top floor where my family was eating dinner at. I remember floating that exact same way. So I was halfway asleep. Everyone was already at the table. For whatever reason, I was taking a nap. And my mom told my brother to come wake me up. And he woke me up halfway, I guess, but then I started to slip back into sleep. When I slipped back into sleep, I literally floated down and I saw everyone eating. And it was weird because I thought it was a dream. Because, I'm looking from this point and I see everybody at the table eating and, setting the table or whatnot. And I thought to myself, I said, this is a dumb dream. By this time I've had a lot of lucid dreams. So I was like, this is a dumb dream. Why am I just watching them eat? And then someone on the side of me said, you're not dreaming, you're out of your body. And right when that body, I said, and I snapped back into my body and I sat up immediately and I'm like breathing like, oh my God, So of course I only had a couple seconds to prove myself. I ran downstairs and sure enough, everyone was in the exact same position, same seating arrangement. And I just said, oh my God. And I'm babbling, going crazy. And they're looking at me like, what is wrong with her? And I'm like, I just saw you, Mom, I just saw you. And they're just like, what are you talking about? Just sit down and eat. And, I can understand them not understanding what I was trying to say. I was so young. But that, for me, that put the nail in the coffin. Like, I saw y'all. I was floating right above you. And I know for a fact, you were sitting there. Because I remember my mom used to call me Miss Lexa. And she's like, did you wake Miss Lexa up? And I'm just like, I remember everything everyone said. Like, I was right there on the freaking, light post or whatever, the the light that was in the middle of the table. There was one right above it, and I was right under that. And I was just looking at the whole scene. So that's how I said, okay, there's more to this. You can get out of your body.
Is there any event that happened to you in your life that started you off being able to have OBEs in the first place?
I don't know what the first one could have been, but I know ever since I was 6, 7, I would tell my mom, I used to tell her that God rocks me to sleep at night. And I remember telling her that. And I forgot for a long time that I used to say that, life happens and all this. But she reminded me one time and she said, when you were a little girl, you used to always come and tell me, you know what? God loves me so much. He rocks me to sleep every night. Come to find out, all these times I was having these so-called realistic dreams, they were all the symptoms of having astral projection or OBE. Because I found out later, it's a deep rocking sensation and there's a buzz in your ear. And I remember the buzz in my ear. I just never attributed it to anything. It was a loud, 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 loud buzz. And I mean, so loud to where like at a point it gets unbearable and you're out. But that happens so often, I figured it's just a part of dreaming. So who knows where I was going all those times. So, I was just like, it was normal to me. And I would just be like traveling. I remember having a dream about heaven when I was 11 or 12, and I saw Jesus. He came up to me and like hugged me. And that's another one where it was so real. I woke up and my pillow was like soaked with tears because the hug just released so much. I don't know why I had that particular dream at that time. I mean, I could have been heavy-hearted about something, but I remember seeing him in heaven, and heaven wasn't what people would think. Well, it wasn't what I thought at that age because I was only about 12 or 13. So it just wasn't what I thought. And it was busy. And I believe maybe I had that dream because in my mind, I started thinking about how boring heaven would be, from listening in church, because I'm an active person. So the last thing I want to do is go, sit on a cloud and listen to music for eternity. So, no matter how great that music is. So I believe that I started forming this vision of heaven in my mind that was just not true. And maybe that's why I had that vision, because I can't even call that a dream, it's a vision. And I remember being in heaven for whatever reason. I remember being like cooled up. So was I really there? I don't know. Was my spirit out of my body? I don't know. But I remember being there plainly, and it was busy. And I was happy to see that. I saw groups of people here, groups of people there. And I was in a group of about 2 or 3 people. And we were just talking about all this stuff. And I can't tell you what we were talking about now, but we were just talking like we knew each other for years. And I saw Jesus over to my side. And when I looked, I said, oh my God, is that Jesus? It was weird because it was like a little, how like a teenage girl, like, oh my gosh, he's popular, Mm-hmm. That's how I felt. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Jesus. And he had like a red and white shirt on with blue jeans. That's how he was dressed. And I just said, oh my gosh, I just want to give him a hug. And like at the end of my G, I swear to God, like at the end of my G, he was over there hugging me. And when he was hugging me, I just felt like a rush of just, I don't know, liquid love. It just poured over me. And when I woke up, my pillow was soaked, like someone literally poured a liter of water. That's how many tears that came out. So something happened. That was not a regular dream. And like that feeling was inside of me for like weeks after that. Like I was still floating, like, like I had just been there. So those couple of things, like those 2 things, the dinner table and that vision, I knew I was on to something. I just didn't know how real it was. I didn't know to what degree. I know now that all kind of things probably had happened, that I dismissed and just said, oh, it was nothing. It was a dream. It was more.
You're not the only one that says that when you're leaving your body, you hear a buzzing sound.
Yeah, I don't know why, but it's a buzz and it's strong too.
I'll have to remember that in case I'm ever like half asleep and I hear buzzing sound, then I'll go, oh, maybe I'm going to leave.
Well, if you do, just definitely direct yourself, because you can end up in some crazy places.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I figure when you're out of your body, you still have free will. So it depends on what mind state you're in. There's a multitude of places you can go. Like, I've been in places that are just the same as Earth. Like, they're no better. Still the same frequency. Maybe 1 degree more, maybe 1 degree less, but still negative, energies around and stuff. And I know it's like, okay, I'm going back home. Still the same amount of darkness, basically. So you want to keep yourself at a high vibration. If you do have a loose tether, I call it a loose tether. I have a loose tether. Basically, I can pop out of my body easily, apparently, because I've been doing that since I was younger. I didn't know it was hard to do. I didn't know people try to have lucid dreams and stuff. So now that I know that, I figure after doing some research, they call it a loose tether. So you have a silver cord that connects your body to your spirit. If yours is loose or long, any little emotional thing, like I saw one NDE where OBE, where a girl, her first kiss popped her out of her body. Just being emotionally overwhelmed. So if you're really emotional sometimes, or you're going through something, 9 times out of 10, if you have a loose tether, you're going to be traveling that night. You're going to be astral traveling, or you're going to be talking to your spirit guides. Like, I've woken up and listened to conversations on the side of me, like as loud as we're talking right here. And I remember the last time it happened, I literally said out loud, I said, I can hear you. And everything just got quiet. So it's like, you have 1 foot in, 1 foot out a lot of the time. And that's how I've always been. I've seen things, I've seen reality load up right before my eyes, like load up like a computer program. So I don't know how.
Wow. It almost sounds like we live in the Matrix then, if things are loading up.
I'm questioning everything now. I told my sister about that too. I was like, I just saw a reality load up. She's like, oh, here we go. I'm like, no, I woke up a second too quick. That's all I can say. A second too quick. And I just saw the whole thing build up around me. So I'm like, is this fake or what?
All right, well, I got to switch gears on you. Do you have anything that you're working on that you want us to know about?
I actually do. I want to do an experiment, and this is going to be a dream experiment. I want to get volunteers who are a little bit psychically inclined, or, just open, somebody that has experience with the spiritual realm, to possibly volunteer to build a dream realm. That's what I want to do. So this is, I guess you could call it a psychic experiment. And if I can get volunteers or people who are interested in joining, I would love to interview them and just see if they're a good fit. I don't want to launch the experiment until, let's say, March next year, but I want to get a good, group of people, because what we're going to do is we're going to split off into groups, and we're going to build 2 realms and, see if we can visit them.
How do they contact you if they want to get involved?
They can email me or, so if you have Instagram, you can go to, let me double check what it is. Dream Work. I want to double check this just to make sure. It's Dream Work by Alexa.
Okay.
So it's Dream Work by, at Dream Work by Alexa on Instagram.
All right. And if they don't have Instagram, then what?
You can go to dreamsbyalexa.com and just join the mailing list.
All right.
Oh, the mailing list, yeah.
What about this? After watching this podcast, people may want to just reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that? And if so, how do they contact you?
Yeah, the website's probably best, or Instagram, either one. Dreamsbyalexa.com or Dreamwork by Alexa on Instagram. So if you just drop me a message and let me know what's on your mind, or if you want to be part of the experiment, I'd love to hear from you. I'm excited about it. This has been on my mind for, I want to say, 3 years now. So it's like, it's not going anywhere. It's something I need to do.
All right. Is there a contact place on your website then that's how they can connect with you?
Yeah, it says join our newsletter. So once I do a newsletter, you'll get it. But if you just drop me a line in that same contact, I'll get it. It comes to my email.
Okay, great. All right.
Or if you just want to email me directly, you can email me at I am Alexa Page. So just my first and last name, I am Alexa Page @gmail.com.
Okay. All right. Well, before we finish up, can you give us one last positive message?
Trust yourself. Trust yourself. When you have a spiritually awakening experience, trust yourself above everyone else, no matter how hard it is, because it will lead to new revelations. Trust yourself.
Well, thank you for that message. And thank you so much for being my guest. I really appreciate you and I wish you the best.
Thank you, Jeff. It was all my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.